Good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery here. We get together most weekday mornings at this time at 8 o'clock Central to talk strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories. We tend to have a broad audience for these morning Zoom webinars, really three types of people that might attend, and they can be overlapping. One of which would be potential participants, entrepreneurs that are looking for funding and want to understand what this grant is and how it works and essentially what our formula for funding is that works 100% of the time. Secondly, we sometimes have prospective distribution partners. So those are individuals that have a motivation to earn income by helping people. And then the third group of attendees are often our current distribution partners. We're very transparent, so it doesn't matter which hat you wear. We are what we are, and we do what we do. And I'm going to be working today off of the ChapmanLoanProgram.org website. So if all's going well, that page is shared. Hopefully you can see that. And this is a key resource site. When we applied for the grant and received the grant, we were required to create a standalone page that was meant to be a single site, a simple resource for all things related to the grant. So that's what I'll be speaking off of today. If at any time you have questions, comments, concerns, what you'll do is you'll just type it into the Q&A, the question and answer box of Zoom, type it in, and then I'll read it off as soon as we get to a good point to stopping point to do so and address it. So since we have this program called the Startup Business Funding Package that essentially is a roadmap, it's a formula for funding. What we do is create fundable businesses. And so I can certainly break down the details of what we do. But first, let me just make sure you know what's on this resource site in case you need to go or want to revisit it later. So ChapmanLoanProgram.org. For those of you that are considering participating, there are two steps. Now, if you were referred by one of our distribution partners, you'll certainly want to go back and visit with him or her. But if that's not the case, you'll come to ChapmanLoanProgram.org, and there's two steps to complete. Step one is we must have educated participants. You will receive an allocation of $2,500 for participating, but you have to complete two steps. The first step is to view the proposal, which you'll see the click here link, and that'll pop up the proposal because we want you to understand exactly how the grant works. And then also they ask that you watch the embedded YouTube video, which is right here on the press release. Once you've completed those two steps, then to no surprise, we go to step two, and you'll click here to enroll. They've made it very, very simple. You'll click there to enroll. You'll just go through. It's kind of like a DocuSign or an Adobe, but you'll just click through, initial a few places, and then you'll be in the program. Additionally, there's more resources as we scroll down. It describes who we are, our 501c3 nonprofit, addresses how long we've been around, validates that we're a member of the Money Smart for Small Business initiative that is ran by the SBA and FDIC. And we commonly explain, because people will often ask, well, how did this come about? You know, why does this program exist? Well, obviously it exists for the express purpose of helping businesses become positioned for fast funding by becoming a fundable business, which we'll talk more about in a moment. But the history behind it, to me, it's kind of interesting. Maybe it's boring to you, but I'll hit on it and we'll move on. I was a high school teacher, and there's a group in Aubrey, Texas, Aubrey, Texas, a suburb of Dallas. So I taught accounting 1, accounting 2, economics, business information management, and what am I missing? Computer programming. So one of the things that we did in that business information management class is we learned about business structures. We created business plans. We even had a business plan competition. We were featured in the national press. If you go back and look, you'll see the pictures of myself and some of the students. So it was very innovative in the time, maybe not so much now. But what happened is here we're teaching essentially the same things that we're talking about here, but we were teaching this to high school students. And then all of a sudden, what happened is we started to get phone calls. And when you're a teacher, your boss is the principal. And Dr. Saylor, Saylor, wonderful woman, she called me into her office one time, and she's like, everyone's formal. So she said, Mr. Montgomery, what's going on in your classroom? And I'm like, what do you mean? Now, she knew about the press coming out, and they put her in some of the pictures too. But she's like, what's going on? I'm getting all these calls. She was getting all these calls from parents and community members about what we were teaching, like it was somehow bad or something was wrong. We'll come to find out, as the parents and the community learned what we were teaching the students, they wanted us to go teach in the community. And that's kind of the point I'm getting to. We would love for you to go out and teach this in your community. But the bottom line is, as a high school group of teachers, we couldn't invite people into the classroom. That's prohibited. So we formed a nonprofit and then proceeded to get the grant, and the grant provides the package. So the bottom line is, a lot of what we do is financial literacy education. We used to teach 16, 17, and 18-year-olds this. Now we teach adults this, and we're asking your help. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to be vulnerable, and I'm going to ask you, would you please commit to teaching one class in December? Could be at a library, could be at a church, could be at an apartment complex, could be online or in person. But I'm asking each of you right now. So we've got 423 of you on, so I can't list every name, it'd take too long. But Andrew Martinez, thank you for being on. Andrew, would you please consider going out and teaching our financial literacy workshop, which, by the way, you can see exactly what it is right here. There's a recording version. But Andrew Martinez, would you please consider going out and teaching one workshop this month? We'll pay you to do it. Ashley Malabranche, thank you for joining. Would you please, Ashley, consider, please, teaching in person or online this workshop one time between now and the end of the month? I can keep going through. Audrey, how about yourself? Bernard, Bobby, Charles, David. We've got hundreds of you, so I can't spend the time. William, Mr. Jackson, just joined this morning, our newest distribution partner. William, would you please go out and teach this? I'm looking for responses in the Q&A. Who is willing to go out and teach just one time? Now, you can do it more than once, but one time is the most important, the first time. Who is willing to go out and help us teach this curriculum? It's called the 10 Mistake Curriculum, and it helps entrepreneurs understand what it takes to be fundable. It's not a sales presentation. If you've not visited, if you've not viewed it, you can view it here. The link is right here. So thank you. We're getting some responses. This is what we're trying to do, is create community outreach through each of you, through Trevor, who says he's in the process of setting one up. David says he's willing and able. Thank you. Ken says he will. Mr. Jackson, again, welcome aboard. He says he will. Joel says he'll have his first class set up this weekend. Excellent. Eric says yes. Bobby says she'll have, sorry, the phone's ringing, says she'll have 1 to 2. Great, great. So I'm not trying to pressure you, but there's good things that will happen by going out and teaching. 2 things will happen. Number one, you're going to improve the financial literacy of the audience, which I'll talk more about. And then secondly, you're going to get paid. So this is by far, this is not a get-rich campaign by any means, but you'll make $1,250 net profit in your pocket for each person that you educate. So they go through, you teach them 10 mistakes, and then if they wish, then they can participate in the startup package. And about 85 to 87% of your attendees will go ahead and enroll, because now you've taught them the formula for funding. So what's in it for the client is clear. They enroll, you educate them, and in 30 to 60 days, we've provided all these free services, and now they have a fundable business. But today I want to focus more on you, because certainly there's great value for the client. But I want to talk about you. So let's say that you taught in person or online. In person is much better. Make no doubt, teaching in person, even if it's a smaller audience, is much better because people don't always trust what's going on in the internet. But if you're there in the room with them, at the church, at the library, at the chamber, we can go to apartment complexes, we can go to community centers, anywhere where there's a group of people. Typically, there's about 1 out of 3, just if you look at the general population of the United States, about 1 out of 3 adults, of course, either own a small business or they're interested. Now, maybe that's as small as starting a network marketing. Maybe they want to sell Avon. Maybe it's heating and cooling, plumbing, pottery. I mean, it doesn't matter what their business is. But in general, 1 out of 3 people either own a small business or are interested. Almost all of them have a need, a thirst, a desire for capital. But what they're missing is the knowledge. But you have the knowledge. You know exactly the formula for funding. Have a good address. We provide for free. Be in good standing with Secretary of State. We file for free. Have an EIN and a bank account. We help them for free. Have a strong business credit profile. We help them for free. Have strong financials with collateral. Again, it's provided. So once you have a fundable business, then you can get funding. If you don't have a fundable business, you probably won't get funding. So specifically, what we like to teach is the 10-mistake curriculum. We should have already sent each of you the PowerPoint. We should have sent each of you an editable version of the PowerPoint, I'll add. We should have sent each of you an editable version of the press release. We should have sent each of you a proposal, which is frankly different than this one, but it's for hosts. So if you're interested in teaching in person, sometimes people will say, well, where am I going to get the audience? That's the wrong question. You will never have to go get the audience. If you're worried about who you're going to get to teach, you've missed the model, because you and I don't go find people to teach. We work with hosts. Hosts are key influencers, a pastor of a church, an executive director of a chamber, the president of an HOA, the property manager of an apartment complex. The host is the key influencer that typically will provide you the space, the AV equipment if needed, and promote it for you. Now, maybe you want a revenue share because you know you're making $1,250 for each person that you teach the curriculum that turns around and enrolls. So best practice, you don't have to do this, but best practice is revenue share with the host and provide the host $250 per person. So let's just run through the numbers. Let's say that you have a workshop with only 10 people, very modest in size. We would anticipate normally from our history, 85 to 87% of them will enroll. Well, that's not going to be an even number, so we'll round down. So we would anticipate 8 people out of those 10 will want to participate in the grant. So what profit does that put in your pocket? $1,250 times 8. So you're right about $10,000 that you made by teaching a 1-hour workshop. And again, I know you all are many of you are successful and busy, but $10,000 for helping 10 people and in 1 hour, that's good, right? I mean, where else can you legally go make $10,000 an hour and all you're doing is teaching? You're not selling anything. Now, with that, let's follow those numbers. So if we had only 10 people attend, 8 enroll, that generates $10,000 for you. If you did a revenue share, which you don't have to, of $250 for each attendee, that's going back to the host, 250 times each attendee that participates, 250 times 8. So the host would have made $2,000 in that simple example for hosting that 1-hour workshop. Well, I can tell you, there's a lot of chambers that would say, yes, we'll host a workshop if you'd pay us $2,000. There's a lot of pastors that would say, yes, I'll host a workshop if you could contribute to the church, make a donation of $2,000 and so forth. Now, of course, the bigger it is, the more people that enroll. My experience has been this, is when you go out and you teach a workshop, you would anticipate 3 things happening. Number one, we would expect about 8 or 9 out of 10 of the people that you teach to want to participate in the grant. That's not really what I'm getting to, but that's outcome number one. Outcome number two is you would expect the host to come to you. So let's say it's Sally who's on the line. Sally teaches a workshop. We would expect that that host comes up to Sally after the workshop and says, Sally, that was great. When can you come back? Or Sally, can you come back in a month? Maybe they only want to do it once a quarter. Maybe they only want to do it once a year. But the point is, the second outcome should be that you are invited back to teach again because it's so good. It's so well received. Again, what are we teaching? It's right here. We'll provide you the PowerPoint. The third outcome that we would expect is at least one person from the audience approaches you afterwards and says, hey, that was great. Can you come teach it at my church or at my apartment complex or at my chamber? So normally you get just the snowball effect. If you get out in front of people and they understand that you are the resource to help people get a fundable business through the grant, you'll get momentum. What we have to avoid, well, that's too strong. But if we're afraid to get out in front of people and become positioned and known as a resource in the community, you're going to have to work at a different angle. And that's more online, and that's not really our topic today. But for those of you that are willing to get in front of people to teach, you'll do great. And again, we've got the PowerPoint for you. We normally spend 30 minutes if we teach it online. So if you want to do a Zoom, normally it's 30 minutes. If you're doing it in person, normally you move a little slower, more audience interaction. Normally it's 1 hour. But that's what I wanted to share with you and ask of you today is, would you please consider between now and the end of the month teaching one workshop? Now, with that being said, you can teach this curriculum just one-on-one. You can teach it just over the kitchen table. It doesn't have to be formal, but you'll never worry about selling. You don't need to sell our program. You don't. If you just simply educate people, what does it take to have a fundable business? And then what can they expect after they have a fundable business? It sells itself, even though we're not selling anything. So financial literacy is what we need to do, and we're asking you to be more active in that. So I'm going to pause and just respond to your questions, your comments, concerns now. And I appreciate those of you that responded and have suggested that you might want to participate. All right, Michelle says she's not plugged in. She doesn't have the PowerPoint. Okay, so Michelle, anyone that's not plugged in, you'll come to chapmanloanprogram.org, and at the bottom, just like William did this morning, you'll come down here and you'll click on this and it'll pop up a screen. It's real simple, and we need to get you set up in this system. So it's called the Opportunity Fund. You'll see that it matches with what we said here. And so then, sorry, wrong one, this one. And then you'll just initial off in a few places, and then we'll get you set up and we'll provide you the materials, the training and support. So that's a great point, Michelle. I didn't make that clear enough. If you're not set up as one of our distribution partners, this is where you do it. All right, next question we have is Samuel's asking, can he be both a client and what we call distribution partner? Sure. You're welcome to be in both capacities. So I guess there's a few different approaches you could take. You could be a distribution partner, but not a client. You could be a distribution partner and a client. So you could do both, either, or neither, right? If you don't want to go teach people, you don't want to make money, and you don't need funding for your own business, then you wouldn't need any of that. All right, so next, Freeze has a few questions, which is great. He or she, sorry, I don't know the gender, but Freeze says that they would like to teach a group. They'll sign today, which is excellent. And then the follow-up question is, what's the interest rate of the loans? So what I need you to do, and what I want everyone to do, is break this into two pieces. The first thing that needs to happen is we need to create a fundable business, because if the business isn't fundable, There is no interest rate. There are no loans. There is no money. So what you and I, what we're bringing to the table is financial literacy about how to become fundable, what it takes to have a fundable business. And then if they want to participate in the grant, the package, then they'll get all these things. And then in 30 to 60 days, as we said before, then they'll have a fundable business. So that's kind of phase one. Now, once we have a fundable business, then we can go to funding. And funding could come from lots of different places, lots of different sources, because when you have a fundable business, it's fundable. So we could go to banks, credit unions, we could go to the Chapman Fund, which we've talked about before. The actual terms of the loan, which is what Frizz is asking, is up to the lender. Normally, so I'll give you norms, but it's up to the lender. It's not up to you or I. And then the client can accept it or reject it. If the client doesn't like it, we can go look for a different funding source. But normally, working capital loans will be a 10-year repayment term, 120 months. That's the normal. And then as far as interest rates, again, it can vary, but normally it's just a little bit above prime. So that's the norm. But you and I never want to be quoting lending or loan terms, because we're not the bank, right? The bank has to quote the loan terms. Our primary role is first to get the client fundable, then facilitate the funding. But if they're not fundable, then there is no funding. And that's you'll run into that, where people, they want to ignore all this elements of getting the business fundable. They're just like, well, what's my interest rate going to be? Well, right now it's zero, right? Because you don't have any funding. You don't have a fundable business. Sometimes you have to pull people back to reality. What we need to be focused on right now is getting the business fundable. All right, Audrey asked a different question, which is a good one. So as a distribution partner, the truth is you determine the cost of the client participating in the startup business funding package. We know that the grant makes an allocation to each person, but as far as what you as a distribution partner want to charge the client, that's up to you. So I can't speak to that because the answer would be different for each of you. However, I can tell you that the client can enroll either with us here or with you as a distribution partner. And then afterwards, we can go for financing, which is, again, very transparent. They can click a link here, and I'll even click it for you. So it'll bring up a simple one-page app. Now, the finance app, it's called a funding proposal app, actually, has two portions to it: business information and key person, the owner. If they don't have the business information yet, which they may not, if it's not been formed yet, then all of this is optional. It's not required, but anything with a little asterisk is required. So there has to be a business owner. So with that, Audrey, what we can do is then go get financing offers for the client. That typically will provide working capital for them in addition to getting started. All right. But yes, and so Desmond's following up with that. So if you are a distribution partner, so since there's different audiences on here, I have to clarify who I'm talking to when I'm making a statement. If you are a distribution partner, you will receive a packet of information from us. You'll have an editable press release. You'll have an editable proposal. You'll also have an editable version of the agreement. So then you, as a distribution partner, will get the client under agreement. They will sign that. You'll upload that into Dropbox. If that sounds foreign to you, it's probably because you're not a distribution partner yet, but it'll make sense when you are. How do you become a distribution partner down here? And then after they've done that, then we can help get them some initial working capital even before we've built it out. So that is the answer, I think, furthermore to what Audrey was asking and also what Desmond was asking. Felicia's asking about credit, and that's a good point. So let's dig into that. So is credit important when you borrow money? It is important, but we want to focus on business credit. See it right here, business credit. We want to focus on business credit, the credit worthiness of the business under its EIN. So what we do through the grant for free, how much? Free. There's a big free. It's in capital letters. Maybe we should make it bold in capital. For free, here's what we do, Felicia, to help clients have strong business credit. First of all, and these bullets go in order, by the way. So first we'll get their address, and then we'll get them set up with the Secretary of State, and then we'll get their EIN and bank account. Now we're on to step 4. Step 4. So the first thing we do in step 4 is make sure that their business credit profiles with like Dun & Bradstreet, Experian Business, so forth, is complete and accurate, because normally it's not. Maybe the industry code is missing or not correct. Maybe the address isn't right, so forth. So we need to make sure that the profile with for instance, Dun & Bradstreet's correct. Once that's done, then we add primary trade lines, not AU, not authorized user. We add true primary trade lines that the client can use. What are examples of that? Real estate, main 3 categories would be real estate, automobiles, like getting a business car, a company car, and business credit cards. We need some combination of trade lines reporting under the business credit profile, under the EIN, for the business to be creditworthy. And so I think that's what Felicia's asking. So yes, it is important that the business be creditworthy, but that's built in. That's what we do. We had a training a few days ago, I think it was Monday, we talked about getting a business car, a company car financed under the EIN. If you didn't see that training, that's worth going back and looking at, because there's a lot of perks at having a company car. Fully tax deductible, accelerated depreciation under Section 179. We went and just picked up our second company car on Saturday. I showed you pictures of that. Not that it's a big deal, but the point is it's real. So Felicia's asking, is it important to have good credit? And the answer is yes. And we build that. We build the client's business credit by adding primary trade lines, cars that they can drive, real estate that they can own, credit cards that they can use are some of the common examples. But yes, credit matters in becoming fundable, and that's built in. How much does it cost? It's free, 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 and free. All right. So are there any other questions that I need to answer? Otherwise, come engage, give it a try. If you're not a distribution partner, let's try it. Between now and the end of the month, plug in here and let's just set a goal of helping one client a day. That'll put a little over $1,000 a day into your pocket, which I know is not much, but for a side gig, as you teach, you can teach this to groups or individuals. You can do it formally or informally. But the bottom line is people need this knowledge. You're in a very unique position that I don't think you appreciate probably. You know the formula for funding. You know exactly what it takes for any business to qualify for at least $250,000. The average person doesn't know that. And if you don't step back and realize that you have knowledge that other people don't have, that you have knowledge that can help people change their lives, you're missing the point. Because this is what it takes to have a fundable business. There's no secrets. We tell the world. We put it in written format. We put it in video format. But you know what? That's not enough. We need individuals like you to go out and help us teach. If you'll teach people, then they'll learn it. They'll assimilate it. 8 out of 10 to 9 out of 10 will then engage in the grant. They'll participate. You'll make a great side income, and we can make a difference together. I mean, it's the real deal. There's nothing about this that's fishy, that's too good to be true, and it's ultimately transparent. So, in summary, if you're not a distribution partner, please consider doing it. If you're not participating as a client, please consider doing it. There's no risk. There's certainty. We know this will work. It will work 100% of the time. All right. So with that being said, we will be back tomorrow morning, same time, same place. Thank you for your consideration. And all we can do is ask you to engage, to take action, because good things will happen if you take action. Probably nothing's going to change if you don't. See you tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. Bye.